What's up, guys? I'm here today in front of my 2018 Chevy Sonic. What we're going to be doing today is replacing the valve cover and gasket. The one that I have on here has been leaking for a little while, and I'm just ready to replace it, so I figured why not do a video. It's a very simple job. I'll tell you guys everything that you need, and I'll show you step by step how to get this done and do it yourself, save some money. All right, so the tools you're going to need for this job: a ratchet 3/8, an extension, the E10 T40. We're going to need some high temperature thread locker for a few of those bolts. You're going to need some sort of a scraper. I have two types here. I have a plastic scraper and I have a regular metal scraper here, and this is to clean the area where the gasket sits. Aside from that, a little brake cleaner will help to clean off the job. Once you clean off all the gunk and stuff off the mating surface, use a little bit of this with a rag to clean it off and get ready to put the new gasket on. Besides that, you're going to need a torque wrench, which I have here. This is a digital torque wrench, but any torque wrench will do. Click type is just fine. And of course, a new valve cover and gasket, which I have in this box. All right, so to start removing this guy over here, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up this little piece here. We're going to pull up this plastic piece back here, and then this wiring harness over here, which will give us access to all the bolts to take this out. All right, so to get it out, flathead screwdriver, kind of go here, push, and pull up at the same time. You're going to do that on both sides. And there it goes. It's loose. It doesn't travel very far, but that's all you need to separate it from the cover. The next thing you're going to do is with your hands, or even with the same flat screwdriver, you're going to remove this piece here. Now this piece slides that way, and then you can pop it out. So you can put a screwdriver on this little area here. Just twist the screwdriver to get it sliding across. Push it with your hands, lift it up. That piece is out of the way. That exposes the coil pack. We have to disconnect the coil pack, and to disconnect that, there's a little red tab here. You basically just take the screwdriver, slide the little tab back to unlock it. Then you slide the connector backwards. Okay, so I slid back this little locking tab. It doesn't travel very far, just enough, and then you can push down on this tab and pull back to disconnect the coil pack. All right, so there you go. Piece comes back. Make sure you don't lose that little locking clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock it to keep it from falling down into the engine compartment. Push the wiring harness out of the way. Now we have to remove this little casing back here, which covers the wires in the back. And with that, you just put your hands underneath it and you pull up. As you can see, once you slide it all the way up, again, it goes back a little bit. It doesn't have to travel far. It's only separating it from the cover. The next thing you're going to do is this wiring harness here, which literally you pull right up and then you remove it out of the way so you can get access to these bolts right here. All right, so once this wiring harness is lifted, you have access to the 3 bolts that are on this side. All right, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove these 2 screws here that hold the coil pack in place. This is going to be a T40 socket with an extension and a 3/8 ratchet. There's only 2 of them holding down the coil pack. So once you get them loose, these are pretty long screws, so make sure you screw them all the way out before you try to pull the coil pack up. All right, so now the coil pack actually presses in place over the spark plug, so you're going to have to use a little force to get it up, but you want to try to bring it up evenly. Yep. And you see, I didn't turn these screws enough, so I have to go ahead and stop here and turn these screws a little more. As I mentioned earlier, they are very long screws. All right, and there we go. And there's your coil pack. And the first thing I see here is how these coil packs are wet with oil. That indicates that that gasket on this valve cover is definitely leaking, and it's leaking oil into the spark plug hole. So if we take a peek in here, you can probably see the oil inside the spark plug area. Now you can dry that up with a rag, and it's okay if some of it falls into the engine area because it'll burn off with the combustion. So as you can see, we had a problem. All right, now we're going to switch over to our E10. This is an external Torx 10, which is the size used to remove all these bolts here, so we can remove the cover, the valve cover. So we'll start by letting out loose the one in the middle here. Okay, then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back that we have to remove. Okay, so I'm just loosening them all up. There's one on each end here as well, and there's 4 in the front. Just loosening them up so that we can take them all out. And there's one in the middle here. Now I've pretty much loosened them all up. Now it's just a matter of taking them out so we can remove the valve cover. All right, so all the bolts are loose here, including this middle one, which, you know what, let me just double check this one, make sure it's all the way out. Okay, once all the bolts are completely loose, you got to pry up on this. Sometimes it's stuck, and if it's stuck, you just use a small pry bar to lift it. And I did just remember that we have another piece here we have to disconnect back here. This is the PCV hose. So it has a retainer clip on there. You just kind of pull that to the side to unlock it. Being very careful not to send that clip flying because it is spring loaded. Just enough so that you can push back the PVC hose. Just enough so you can push back the hose, and it should come right off. There you go. So the hose is off. It's disconnected from the valve cover. That's all we need to make sure that we don't yank it when we pull the cover up. So that's it. She's out of the way. Now with that, again, we're going to go ahead and pull up on the cover. Sometimes they come up easy, sometimes they stick, and that's okay if it happens. Like in my case, mine is sticking over here, so I'm just going to use a small pry bar to kind of help it up. Okay, so you want to be careful. You don't want to beat this up too badly when you're pulling it up, because remember, this is an aluminum head and you don't want to damage the head or you're going to have some serious problems. So I'm just helping it up. That's all I'm doing. Okay, she's almost out. Every situation will be different, of course. Yours may come out very easily. Maybe you don't have the problem I'm having here, but it's pretty much all the same. Once you get it all loose, this should come up. Yeah, I think this one is still sticking over here. So I'm gonna hit this a little bit more with the pry bar. There you go. All right, so with that said, here it is right here, guys. She's about to come up. And you just kind of work her out. Don't flip it over, because if any of these bolts are loose, they're going to fall right into the engine, and that's the last thing you want. So there you have, the cover is out. Now, make sure you have a piece of cardboard on the floor, something to lay that on, because it is covered in oil. You don't want to get that all over the place. So now we're just going to clean up the mating surface here. As you can see, we have a little bit of RTV on these little corners here, and just want to make sure that the mating surface for the gasket is clean, otherwise you're going to develop leaks. All right, so right now we're just using some paper towels to clean off the oil from the mating surface, and then we're going to go over it with the razor blade to make sure that it is as clean as we can get it, so we don't develop any leaks with the new gasket. All right, so I'm using a plastic scraper here to kind of scrape off like the gunk buildup on the mating surface here for the gasket. And the reason I like to use the plastic one is because you're not going to gouge into the aluminum when you scrape. So it's safer to use this. You can pick these up on Amazon, on Temu. I'll share the link for them in the description. So we're just going around wherever we see any gunk buildup, and from what I saw here, this is pretty much clean. The only place I saw gunk was on this side, which is most likely the area where the valve cover was leaking from the most. That's why you have the gunk buildup there. I do want to clean this up a little bit, so I'm going to get a little sponge. I have one of these little 3M sponges that I can use to just kind of wipe this down, get it a little cleaner. All right, so I got one of these little 3M sponges here. You can pick these up at the Home Depot. And what this does, it'll kind of clean the surface a little bit without actually damaging the cylinder. So just going around here. And if you look over here, you will see, like, this is the area I cleaned already. You see how it's got this mark here? If you hit it with this, you'll see how it cleans that up. Look how nice and clean that is, and that's kind of where we want to be. So we do that all the way around. Wherever we see any buildup that doesn't come off with a rag. And so far we're looking good. All right, so now we're cleaning the center. We pretty much got the outside edge all cleaned up. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be clean enough so that the gasket does its job. All right, so as you can see here, it's pretty much clean. All right, so outside of the camera, I went ahead and removed all the spark plugs because I wanted to get all that oil out of there. I cleaned them up, got them ready to put back on. So if you take a peek inside, you can see I cleaned out the holes. It's okay if a little bit of the oil goes in there. It'll burn out as soon as you start your engine. Okay, so as you see down here on the floor, I have the old valve cover here. The new cover does come with new screws, so the only thing you need to take off of this is the oil filler cap because the new one does not include that. All right, so right here I have the new valve cover. I ordered this on Amazon. I'll go ahead and share the link for this particular cover in the video description. Now, this cover does include the gasket. If you order one and it does not, make sure you order that gasket because you won't be able to use the old gasket. The gasket does come already pre-installed in place, but always make sure, double check everything, make sure it's all pressed in and that there's no damage whatsoever to the gasket. And once you've inspected everything, you want to go ahead and get this ready for installation. Now, before we go ahead and install this, the 3 center screws here, 1, 2, and 3. These center screws, you have to put a high temperature thread locker sealant, which is what I showed you earlier in the video that you're going to need, but it's only for these 1, 2, and 3 screws right here. All right, so just a little dab on the 3 center screws. That's all you pretty much need. And just kind of rub it on there. Make sure you don't get any on the gasket. That's pretty much all you need. All right, so now we want to go ahead and nice and gently put this cover back on there. I'm going to remove the dipstick here, the oil dipstick, because it just makes life easier. It actually gets in the way when you are putting the cover on, so let me get rid of that. You're going to lift this wiring harness up as best you can, get the cover on there. All right, so you make sure that your valve cover is sitting in place where it needs to be before you start tightening up any of these bolts. And okay, it looks like we are in place. Nothing is pinched underneath there. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and start tightening up these bolts, and we're going to use the torque wrench for that. We're going to go to 71 inch-pounds. Now remember, it's inch-pounds, not foot-pounds, guys. You don't want to damage this. So 71 inch-pounds with your torque wrench. All right, so I have the torque wrench set to 71 inch-pounds. I'll see if you guys can see that on here. Again, I use a digital torque wrench. You don't have to. You can use a click-type torque wrench. It works exactly the same. Now we're going to start by tightening up the center screws first. 1, 2, and 3. The ones that we put the thread locker in, we're going to start with those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by hand here first. You want to start them by hand. You don't want to cross thread these screws as you're putting them in. So get them as far as you can by hand. And then we'll go ahead and use the wrench to tighten them all the way through. All right, so the middle ones are tightened by hand. I'm going to go ahead and tighten all the outside ones now as well in a crisscross pattern. So you don't want to just go straight across like I did in the middle. You want to kind of jump back and forth, corner to corner. Any crisscross pattern will work just fine. It allows you to tighten the cover evenly downward, putting even pressure. Now I did look online for a specific torque pattern, but everybody has a different answer to that. So that's why I say just crisscross, you know, back and forth. The only ones that you tighten first, one after the other, are the center row, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so I've gone ahead and just using my hand have tightened up all these screws with my hand so that they're all nice and snug. Now we're going to go ahead and do a little torquing, and I don't mean this kind of torquing, this torquing. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, 71 inch-pounds, you want to start from the middle row first. Now that we've done the 3 middle bolts, now we can go ahead in a crisscross pattern do the 4 outside bolts. So I'm going to start from the middle. All right, so I've gone ahead and torqued all of these to 71 inch-pounds. Now, we're gonna go ahead and start all over again, following every single one and make sure that they're all as tight as they need to be, because let's start from the middle again. And this one's good. That one's good. There we go. Now, crisscross pattern on the outside. Middle ones, very good. And don't forget these guys on the outside corners up here. Just doing it, that's just the way that I work. I check every single one of them 3 times, make sure. Now I'm not doing the crisscross because I'm just making sure they're all torqued. All right, I think we're golden. All right, we're good. All the bolts are torqued down to 71 inch-pounds. All right, so the cover is on. Now we just start connecting everything we detach, connecting it right back on. So in this case, before you put this piece on, make sure you connect that PVC hose that you took off from the back earlier. Should just slide right back in and lock into place. And you'll know because you hear a click, and if you try to pull it back, you can't pull it back, so that's how you know it's locked in. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this piece and you're just going to slide it on these clips here, just as you see. Slides right on and down, and it pretty much clicks into place. That's in place. Now we're going to go ahead and push this wiring harness back into this little area here, which is where it holds in place. Make sure if you disconnected the VVT solenoid that you connect that back on. In my case, I didn't. Before we connect this side back on, we're going to go ahead and put the coil pack back in. Now, earlier in the video, you saw that I had oil in the spark plug hole, so I went ahead and I cleaned all that out. I took out the spark plugs, I cleaned them up, put them back on, cleaned out the coil pack, and we have it right here ready to put it back on. All right, here's the coil pack. Okay, just gonna slide it in, remembering that the connector is on this side where the wiring harness, where the oil filler cover is. Slide it in, push it in till it stops, okay? And that's it. Now you put these screws back in. Remember, these are the Torx. We're gonna go ahead and tighten these up. So we're going to tighten these up first by hand, and then we are going to use the T40 as we did earlier. Hold on, let me switch this up. We're going to use the T40 to tighten these up by hand. Always start the threading by hand because you don't want to cross thread. Remember, this is all aluminum. And once they're snug with your hands, and this is the only 2 screws that hold down the coil pack, you want to go ahead and torque these to 74 inch-pounds. All right, so I have my torque wrench set to 74 inch-pounds. Make sure it's inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And just tighten these up. I'm going to go back and forth until I get them where I need them to be. There you go. Okay, 74 inch-pounds. We're done with that. And now we're going to go ahead and connect the wiring harness that connects to the coil pack, which is the big wire we removed earlier. Just slide it in. Okay, and then push the locking tab in so it stays secure in place. And that's it. That's connected. Now we want to go ahead and take this piece that we slid up earlier, and we just slide it back down until it locks in place. And with that said, we're pretty much done. The last thing to do is put this cover on here, and this you can just literally put it over and slap it down. And there you go. Slap that in, and with that, the job of the valve cover installation is complete. That's it, guys. It's that simple to replace the valve cover on your car. Now, in my case, I was replacing the whole valve cover because the old one was cracked. In your case, you may just need to replace the gasket, but it's the exact same procedure, the same way you take it out, the way I did, and put it back together. It's very easy to do. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. That way I can create more content that'll help you fix your own car and save yourself a ton of money. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next video.